So we are here equally together with our hips and our knees, which I'm very happy to hear. Um, but you know, what else goes into what is happening with us? And so I'm going to start right in the top three keys and what that means to me. So it is as simple as your ABCs. A, awareness. How did I get here? I explained to you a little bit above in that story of how I got here, but how did you get here? Like, what is going on with your body and the hips and the knees and your loading process? Why is it so painful? So understanding really how the body works. So the big part of this is awareness of what's going on, but also A can stand for assessment. Like, where are you now? Where do you want to be? B for balance. Balance is an interesting word. Like, what do you think of when you hear the word balance? Wobbly, wonky, dizzy. My balance is terrible. I've heard that 100 times in my classes. But why? And what goes into maintaining balance? And what does that mean? How does it improve optimal function? And what does it bring up for you in terms of fear, even of losing your balance? And how do you train it? And how does it get better? B can also stand for breathing, which is obviously one of those vital things in life that you need to know how to do. But for many of us, it is a funky thing that we tend to hold our breath a little bit more than we probably should. C, control. So I want you to maybe get a pen and a paper and write down the 5 areas in your life, in our life, the only 5 that we can truly control in this world of uncertainty and timing and going here and relying on other people. There's not a lot we feel like we can control, but there are 5 things that we can control. And they are posture, movement, breathing, nutrition, and mindset. I didn't write them down here. I'm going to say them again. We're going to go through them a lot during this talk today because I want you to remember the 5 things that you can control. Posture, where your body is. Movement, how your body moves. Breathing, like I said before, one of those things we need to control and learn how to control. Nutrition, what's going in and out of your body. And mindset, how you're thinking about it. And part of control, and I'm going to talk about, is your control bubble and how to stay inside of it and let it wrap around you like a warm blanket, maybe make you relax like you're sipping a warm cup of tea on a cold February day. Now, how does the body learn? And where does brain health come into this? Well, yeah, it's pretty much everything. I use acronym, or I've heard the acronym SMAC to explain the 5 functions of the brain. And SMAC sounds like neurons firing in your brain, but it really stands for strategic planning. How do you get from point A to B? How does your brain figure that one out? M for memory and recall, things you've actually done yourself versus things that you've seen other people do and how to do that. Analytical thinking, numbers, lines, geometry. That's a tough one for a lot of people, but it's so important. C for creativity and imagination. Left brain, right brain, how it all goes together. K, kinesthetic learning. Yeah, how the body learns. And so I'm interested in all of them, but as part of a fitness instructor, I am interested in the kinesthetic learning process, how we learn by what we move and how the body learns. I got a kick out of the Baby Blues comic that's in that lower left corner of how maybe men and women look at different learning purposes. And this was actually a perfect example of how my husband and I have been working through his ankle injury, and I'm listening and hearing his mindset, but survival tips. And, the mom's talking to the daughter. The more you know how things work, the easier it is to repair them. And I definitely think that's true with plumbing. And we've had our house reconstructed lately. So figuring out how things work makes it easier to repair them. Versus sometimes, I'm not going to say necessarily a dad all the time, but how do you do a quick fix? And you can never run out of duct tape. So I see like duct tape as being a quick fix to do something. And even some exercises to feel better. Is that a quick fix? Yeah, we can get a quick fix. Absolutely. But is it a long-term fix? And is it addressing the criminal or the victim in the situation in terms of what muscles are injured or not injured? And the body is pretty amazing, and it works like a computer a lot of the times. And you think of hardware issues versus software issues. And the hardware issues is truly a physical broken part. Orthopedic surgeons are really good at hardware fixing. And that sometimes needs to happen when things break or break down, physically broken. But it's the software issues that actually really interest me, in how the other things, our habits, previous scars we've had, how we hold our stress in our body. That is a huge one in terms of where the body reacts and how we learn from what we've done previously. And I use the example of GPS and like how our body navigates where we're going and changes. So if you use your GPS system in your car, you plug in your destination and it gives you, verbal directions on how to get there, which is unbelievably valuable if you're driving in New York City and don't know where you're going. But using the example of driving from White River Junction up to St. Johnsbury on I-91, easy, straight path, A to B. But what if you love the store Farmway? So up at the Bradford exit, every single time you are going north, you cannot get by that exit without stopping at Farmway. And over time, the GPS is going to automatically send you on that route because that's the way it always goes. Or if there is a bridge or construction or something, it is going to reroute you. And then you get used to that new rerouting. And that's a lot of the way our body works with scars or injuries or something that's going to reroute that signal, that kinesthetic part of the motor control system. I'm always fascinated with how that works. Coming down here, next slide. So getting back into that control bubble and how we learn and how we react. And fear is a pretty powerful emotion. And if you have no fear, you're feeling good, everything's great, that control bubble is all around you. You feel great. You can move, you're confident completely. You're trusting your body. You're trusting everything that's around you. And I'm going to use the example of skiing. And I love that we were skiing up at Burke Mountain a few weeks ago, and it was my husband's first time skiing on his ankle, since September, well, since last year, but he had the surgery in September. And so skiing again in a situation that maybe you're not so comfortable with, but yeah, muscle memory is going to tell you he's an amazing skier. And so he had no issue kind of boop, 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 boop down. And the conditions weren't so great. And you had to, there were some icy patches and narrow places. And so for me, like I'm looking at that and thinking, oh my gosh, like I start skiing down and I start sliding and am I in control? So I go into a hard, snow plow and afraid of falling and afraid of hurting myself more, where he, was able to get by it. But towards the end of the day, he did get really tired and he knew when to stop when other muscles were kicking into gear because of his injury. And so I got a kick out of that sign of Homer Simpson with a ski and control sign. So if you're imagining you're at the top of a ski run that maybe is a little bit on the steeper side and you're not so confident with your skiing skills, and you're looking down and you might get nervous and that control bubble starts to rise and maybe your knees get a little wobbly, start knocking. And you think about it more of what might happen and the threat becomes real. And the control bubble starts to rise a little bit more and you start getting scared. And that control bubble gives you butterflies in your stomach. And the control bubble rises a little bit more if that situation gets more intense. Maybe you start skiing down and you start losing control. You start sliding and having that feeling of falling and you start to become terrified. And this can happen in the if a shark is coming at you in the water or any other threat that is happening. And then pretty soon you're terrified and you have trouble breathing. So you feel like something is around your throat. If you go into a full panic attack and that control bubble is like outside of your body, you're paralyzed. You cannot move. Like you can't think, you don't know what to do. And so my goal is to help people keep that control bubble around them, knowing what to do, how your body reacts, to be able to trust the body and the way it works. And when it's been injured, how to retrain it. And so the reverse of that is what learning looks like. And learning a new skill or learning anything, when you're first approaching it, like, our computers and using Zoom and you have no understanding of how it works, that understanding bubble, control bubble is way out of you. You have, blank slate on how to function. Thinking of when you were 16 or 17 years old and learning how to drive. Now that's a new skill and you're very attentive, but maybe nervous and not really sure what to do. You're giving the skill set of how to sit in the seat, how to, push on the accelerator, what to feel. And slowly over time, yes, more practice, you start to get it. And the more you use it, the easier it becomes. Sometimes you're almost there, but it takes a lot of practice to get it to be a new habit. So it goes from your conscious brain into the body, into the subconscious place. So how you learn to move and control yourself and have everything working is tricky. It takes time, but it can, in fact, happen. So the human body, I'm completely fascinated with how it works. And it is a miracle. We have, 50 to 100 trillion cells in the human body. And honestly, a billion of them are renewing every hour. But there's 11 operating systems going on inside of us at all times. And the list of those operating systems are there. There are very active ones. Obviously the nervous system, circulatory system, digestive system, reproductive system, lymphatic system, they all have different jobs to do. And some overwork, some underwork, and have priority in our systems. But what affects how the cells regenerate? Yes, movement, the nutrition that we supply them, the food, the fuel, and also our mindset, thoughts and emotions. What you focus on, you find. But the beauty of that is that can change. That can be affected. So in the lower left corner is a picture of a trampoline, kind of sideways, two-dimensional, but yes, in fact, that is what I want to be showing, because the trampoline really is what every single cell in our body is like. So imagine that trampoline, nice round with the springs around all of the edges. And so if you're applying a load in the middle of the trampoline, all of the springs are going to extend and see that load. You start bouncing on that trampoline, all of the cells, all the springs are going to go in and out and react and get used. If you stand on one side of the trampoline, the springs on that side are going to see a greater force than the other springs. Every spring still sees a little bit of force, but the ones on that side are going to see a greater force. So if you're bouncing and always on that side, those springs are going to wear out quicker than those other springs, or they're going to get extended or be imbalanced. And that is a lot of what happens in our bodies. And all of the little nerves in our bodies are reacting to the various springs moving. And how our body adapts and changes over time. Like, what shoes are we putting on our feet that cause an uneven loading pattern in the bottom of our feet and through our toes and the calves and the shin area and all the way up the line? How sitting at desks, certainly at computers, our life is a lot in front of us. So imagine the loading patterns and the wearing out patterns of certain springs are going to happen quicker than others. And why did the knees and the hips take such a big brunt? Yes, the cars we sit in, even handwork that we do, causing, issues in the joints of the fingers. If you always do something with your right hand versus your left hand. So the body is pretty incredible on how it adapts based on what we do. But then that causes compensation patterns, and limping is a compensation pattern. You're trying to take a load away that has been worn out from a joint. And over time, heavy use on a particular area is going to cause maybe one spring to wear out quicker than the other. But some of those compensation patterns are subconscious, like you don't even realize you're doing them. For example, clenching your teeth, big compensation pattern to help, keep our strength, or what you're going to do, or holding our breath, or clenching your hand or your toes. Or maybe you're just born with bunions, or born with, hip rotation one way or another. That's going to cause maybe the knee to go inward and the pelvic girdle to change. And, there's a lot. The body is outstandingly, wonderfully complicated, but those lead to those things of bone weakness, osteoarthritis, hypertension, osteoporosis, even diseases such as diabetes, cancer, that, yes, lead to eventual frailty. Not necessarily a place we all want to go. And so where is that vicious cycle, and how can you potentially break it? Like, where do you even start on figure 4? Altered joint forces and altered proprioception, like what your feeling is, where you're in space. That's going to change how your loading pattern is. That's going to bring pain and inflammation. Muscle imbalances, like the picture of the person's foot in the shoe, between your calves and your shins, between the hamstrings and the quadriceps, everything is causing these funky imbalances. That's going to be a faulty movement program. So how do you break the vicious cycle? And noticing how you learn where your body is going, big part of all of this. And so going back to that A of the ABCs of awareness, early development, it's trial and error how we learn as babies to walk. And again, how did you learn to walk? How did you, like, what shoes did your mother put you in? Or maybe no shoes, maybe you were barefoot, or maybe not, born with bunions, pigeon toes. Nothing is good or bad. It's just kind of what it is and what we can learn from that. And so, yeah, mind over matter, and how much of that control bubble with those 5 things, posture, movement, breathing, nutrition, mindset, that is in your conscious, or is it down in a subconscious? And can you change that pattern? Like, what do you think about daily? what you focus on, you find. This is a unbelievably interesting picture to me because the simple act of going upstairs or downstairs or using stairs requires every single muscle in the body and all of those smack brain processes of how to go upstairs. What does it take to go upstairs? And if you have a hurt or bum knee or hip, which direction is harder for you to do? Like, is going downstairs scary because depth perception in the eyes and slipping and falling downstairs, definitely a fear factor. Or going upstairs and taking that step and not having the strength in your legs because your knees hurt and they don't want to be compressed and pulled upon. So oftentimes they say up with the good and down with the bad. So you step up with your good leg and down with your bad leg. And why is that? Because going up requires a lot of strength and going down requires a lot of deceleration or stability. And if you're lacking in any of those places or grinding against a surface that is worn out, it doesn't feel too good. And so you'll do anything to make it easier for yourself. Absolutely fine, but it's going to keep wearing out a little bit more. And after you get a new joint, you have to help train the rest of the body to enjoy this new joint. Your mechanics may change with the new joint. For example, if you're currently standing like with one leg out to the side and one leg straight, and then you get a new knee and all of a sudden you're straight up, like what's going on up and down the line, that you have to relearn how to walk, relearn how to move. It happens. It's not a problem, but understanding how the body works and what needs to be done for all of these is kind of what I geek out on and like to help people retrain with. So looking at the anatomy and the kinetic chains, so all of the muscles up and down the line that we actually just need to walk. So using a heel strike in the stance phase. And if you have weakness in any particular muscle that's going on, what imbalance can you fix? So if something has been injured, or if you're in a habit of sitting in a chair and your hip flexors are very short and your gluteus is turned off, and then you go to stand up and walk, what's going through the brain of how to do that and how to retrain what is happening with all of that. And so the cobweb of soft tissue and nerves that cover the body helps to understand where to get back into the balance. And I've studied neurokinetic therapy. So neuro, the nervous system, kinetic movement, and how to retrain the muscles, the overworking bullies to maybe turn off, and the underworking or stuff we've been sitting on to activate and turn on. Absolutely can do. And that's what I love to do. But learning how to understand what that imbalance is, what that relationship is, that is the fun part that we talk about in class. So looking at the next phase of the gait cycle, toe off versus swing. And again, you can see the kinetic chain. This one with the toe off, the blue on the left, is up the right leg, and then it crosses over and goes up the left arm and into the neck. And so knowing those crossover patterns or same side patterns and just being aware of how your particular body works and compensates, and can then kind of get out of those compensation patterns. And so what all of these compensation patterns and imbalances cause that are really common impairments? Yeah, this list is pretty long. Lower muscle strength, lower muscle power, poor cardiovascular, with pain, you start slowing down and you don't want to do as much. Balance, posture, limited range of motion. Increased fear, that's a big one. Decreased skills and poor coordination. So these are things that are fixable. And the aging process, like I said, where body is changing all of the time, is a plastic modality. It can be significantly changed with posture, movement, breathing, nutrition, mindset, and where those exercises come in. But keep in mind, you hold those keys to your success, and it really does take, consistency and frequency and a routine and quality movements. You can, be given all of the exercises to do, but are you doing them right? Or are you just going rotely through them and actually changing how you move? Because you're going to change the way you feel if you change the way you move. So quality movement is an essential part. And that's what I love to be a guide and helping out with. So where are you now? Looking at that hierarchy of functional aging, where are you on this list? Are you in that elite athlete, fully fit place? Yay. Semi-fit. Keep on rolling, please. Higher independent. But then as you get pain and you start slowing down and get some of those more ailments, you start moving into maybe a little bit lower independent. And then pre-frail, frail, and then dependent. There is a trajectory of the aging cycle. We're all kind of going through it, but deciding where you are now and where you want to be. Like, can you slow down or level out that trajectory? And how to trust your body again. So that graph on the left side of the page right now is that aging trajectory. And there is a disability threshold, like when you get to the point where you lose independence and need to depend on others to help navigate, get around. And that is a tough place to go. So how can you keep above the disability line for as long as possible and not have the fear of moving around and changing around? And so, yeah, you want to maintain the highest level of functional capacity. And you've decided right now, yes, to do that, we're going to get the best treatment as a joint replacement, which, as I say, changing out that hardware is awesome. But now how you can be supported by trusting your body again, relearning the software, how to move without fear of pain or re-injury. So it's really nice to have a little helpful person on your team to go through some of that. So basically all of this is an invitation for a program that I have been developing for many years and am very excited to now bring to the Upper Valley Aquatic Center. And I believe it is a secret to success, to total joint replacement surgery, but to that aging trajectory in general. But specifically for the joint replacement surgeries, yes, they are designed to reduce hospital stay, which is going to save money, save you, reduce pain, improve functional fitness, improve balance, speed up recovery time, because your body's going to know how to react, how to have that smack working for you, and get back to feeling like yourself. An example of brain health and communication that really struck me is when my mother-in-law was in the hospital after, actually she had a partial knee replacement before she broke her hip. But after that partial knee replacement, I was in the hospital room with her the next day, and two young physical therapists came into the room and said, okay, I'm gonna get up and walk right now. And so they, threw back the covers and said, okay, let's stand up, let's go for a walk. And my mother-in-law's eyes were like with a whoosh, Like the thought of getting up and walking at that point, she couldn't even process what that meant. Like literally how to swing her legs over onto the edge of the chair, put weight on them, take a step and walk. And so very slowly, went through that process. And that's sort of what happens when we have an injury like that. You forget the basics. And so over time, if you continue forgetting those basics, you fall and you can't get up, or rolling around in the bed is hard and you don't know how to maneuver even getting out of your own bed. That's when we have, more and more issues, and you're going on that hierarchy of aging into that dependent stage. So my goal is to work on keeping it in that fit, independent area for as long as possible with a new body part. So addressing whole body health and mobility. So we retrain those neural pathways. So all the parts work together as a team, and you can go up and down stairs and you can maintain independence for as long as possible. And at the aquatic center, I'm going to be doing it because I picked aquatic center for many reasons, namely aquatic, a pool. And doing this, and as you heard earlier, I'm a lifelong swimmer, and the water is probably one of the greatest places to be. But to do this training both on land and in the pool, and having the perfect environment at the aquatic center that is welcoming a lot of programs that are going to be part of your team, part of your health care team. Yes, you have your doctors. Yes, you have your physical therapist, but allow the fitness world to be a part of your team as well, to help you recover as quickly as possible. And so this particular program, very excited about, is starting next week on Tuesday, March 1st. And it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 11 a.m. at the Upper Valley Aquatic Center. On Tuesdays, we're going to be land-based training. And on Thursdays, we will be in the pool. And it is going to go for 12 weeks. So the benefits of the water, I don't know if I have to go over this one too much, but certainly tons of research have been done on how warm water relaxes muscles and increases circulation. And the warm water pool at the Aquatic Center, if some of you have not been there, they do have two pools. They have a competition pool and a warm water pool. The warm water pool is at 87 degrees. The competition pool, I believe, is at 78 degrees, so just the opposite. But you don't want warm water when you're racing because you get really overheated. But warm water is wonderful when you are doing exercises and rehabilitation and recovery. It does provide a natural resistance to training. And so, yes, as you're moving your hand through the water, you're going to feel the rest of your body react. So it's unbelievably great for reaction training, for balance training, but it also gives you an opportunity to be a little more buoyant, to walk freely in the water without the fear of falling, because if you do fall, you're going to get wet and it's not going to be too bad, but you're not going to get hurt. And it takes forces, it lightens up the forces on the joints so you can have a greater range of motion, which allows you to work a little bit harder to increase the cardiovascular strength and endurance. So win-win all around. Plus, the compression forces of the water help your circulatory system, the reaction nervous system. So a lot of huge benefits for the water. The anecdotal data, basically, how many people feel that feeling of back to normal when they're exercising in the pool. So yeah, reduced pain. The pool to me when I was pregnant was a savior for that back to normal feeling. It was incredible. I felt free and I just loved it. So I know the pool has incredible therapeutic purposes. Plus it's fun and it provides wonderful peer support. We're all in there together. So it really can boost your morale and make it much more fun. But we do need land-based training. We're land-based creatures, and learning how to walk and move and improve your habits and how you carry yourself without that fear of falling and re-injury. How to walk on uneven surfaces so you can travel, and how to walk on, Lord knows these days you have anything from ice to snow and all sorts of stuff. And I think even more is coming. But how to gain strength and range of motion for ease and accomplishing daily activities. But like I said, you're going to improve reaction speed, motor control, coordination, all around, which helps to have that not vicious cycle, but very positive feedback cycle of reducing pain and inflammation. So win-win. Plus, I like to have fun, like you heard at the beginning of class today. 2-2 Tuesday. So the body is really never out of shape. Like we say, oh, I'm in such bad shape. But it's in the shape that you've created by how you've moved, things that you control, your movement up to this very point. No judgments, just awareness. But if you want your health to change, you have to change the way you move and the way you think about movement and your posture. Breathing is a big part of that as well. So if you don't take anything else away from this talk, I'd like you to take away the ABCs for yourself, for anybody, what you're thinking about. So going back to your basics and consider your history, your movement timeline. Like, what kind of car do you drive? What do the seats look like? What any activities that you like to do, the shoes that you wear, the seats and couches that you're in, anything, even past surgeries, accidents, sports injuries, anything that has affected how your body is moving. And then make a list and start slowly, itty bitty, making little changes to your active loading habits. So maybe that's brushing your teeth with your other hand, or how you're sitting in a car, maybe changing something of the seats that you sit in. Do you always cross your arms, or do you always cross your legs? Just noticing what is going on for you. And then, yes, back to those ABCs, but it takes practice. So pay attention. And I said, where are your cheaters? And what I mean by that is where you feel like the muscles overworking in your body. What is your alignment? So for example, the muscles in our upper shoulder neck area, trapezius, upper trapezius, often called our worry knots. Like we kind of lift up. And so the worry knots get uber duper tight. And there's also muscles in the front of the body, of the shoulder and chest area, called the pectoralis minor. And, if we're in that fetal position, hunched forward, the shoulders are going to rotate forward. This muscle is getting shorter, muscles in the back getting longer and dysfunctional. So that dysfunctional relationship here, where we sit, the muscles on the front of the hips and legs are our flexors. They help lift the knee up. Those get shorter. The muscles on the backside, the gluteus, what we're sitting on, tend to turn off or get pinched, or, sciatica, stuff is shifting in the pelvic girdle. So what is your alignment? And so you have to move differently to change. Then thinking about the balance and your breath. Are all muscles doing their jobs? And guess what? They will improve with practice. And finally, that control, that keeping that control bubble around you, flow state, breathing, and honestly, making connections is truly where it's about. Having the support and the community around you of other like-minded folks. And it's fun to laugh and compare notes. It really is. So that all leads to improved health and happiness. And I'd like to end with giving you this little, my favorite, the best 5 exercises you can do every day. So if you want to just take that home with you. And I'm happy to send a little bit more greater explanation if anybody would like that. But rolling your feet with a tennis ball. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Keeping mobility in the bottom of your feet, keeping your toes moving, the proprioceptive feedback loop. So how you can feel the ground. That's a big one. Neuropathy, need to be careful of that, and how to keep the circulation in your feet, how to keep the soft tissue moving, and the nerves coming down from your spine down the legs, how to keep those active. Helps with rolling your feet. Stretching your calves on a half roller or towel. So what I mean by this is, like, it's even putting your foot up with your heel down on the stairs potentially, or rolling up a towel and putting your toes on the front of the towel and your heel down. So that's extending. It's almost the exact opposite of walking in high heel shoes, of working through calf muscle stretches, rolling your feet when you're in there. Relaxing your kneecaps. That's a good one. And what the heck does that mean? So the kneecap patella is this like small round bone, and the end of the femur kind of comes down in a little notchy area, and the patella rides in that femur. And when you tighten your quadriceps, tighten your thigh muscles, it pulls that patella kneecap into this groove. And like one of the previous pictures showed that skeleton kind of sideways. If you're pulling at a funky angle, that's going to pull in sideways. And if there's an imbalance between your quadriceps and the hip flexors, like we had just discussed, and your hamstrings, if you have tight hamstrings a whole bit, that's going to shift the pelvic area. How do you relax the kneecaps? So you lean against a wall with your legs out, and you can even do it in a chair. Extend your legs out and literally tighten up your quadriceps, like pull in on your knees, and that kneecap's going to pull in and then let it go. Pull it in and let it go. That's what relaxing your kneecaps means. And it actually is mentally relaxing your quadriceps. Activating your hip stabilizers. So practicing standing on one leg and hiking a hip up or hiking the other hip, and how to stabilize your hips. So as you're walking in that stance phase, that hip is not going to give way on you. And finally, the head and neck posture, that picture of the person at their computer with their head forward. So taking your fingers, and hopefully you can see my camera. So I have my thumb, pointer finger, and middle finger into this little tripod. And you're going to go onto your collarbone with the thumb and middle finger, and then the pointer finger is on your chin. So make that little tripod, and you can try that now. Why not? Let's get active with this. And that is a good position for the neck. So we don't want to be up or down or forward or back. So when you're walking or just generally moving about, if you're a runner, you want to have a tripod neck position. So you're going to do that little whoop check. Maybe it's the size of a apricot or something small underneath your neck. And then imagine that there's a bad smell in front of you, and you're going to whoop, pull your head back. So the back of your head pulls back against that smell, like offended by that. So you want to back up that neck. So we're not dropping the chin. We're not raising the chin. You're keeping that nice posture here, and then boop, bring it back. And that is what head and neck posture feels good over those shoulders, loosening up that lower jaw. My bonus reminder is breathing. Learning inhale, exhale, not in just through the neck and shoulders, but down into the diaphragm, belly breathing, what that means. The breathing mechanism is really powerful throughout our whole body. And learning how to do that, hugely important. So practicing your inhale to last the same amount of time as your exhale. That is a hard one. You can even have it last a little bit longer. So between 5 and 10 seconds each. So inhale for 5, exhale for 5. Those are my bonus tips for you today. So yeah, who am I? my friend Tracy's on the call here today. She's one of the Wonder Women that I love to hang out with. Been teaching fitness in the Upper Valley for 22 years now, various locations around town, and I'm working as a personal trainer and movement coach. So I have progressed my career. Functional aging specialist is a big part of my resume, but I do like to have fun and celebrate, good things happening with people and reduction of pain. So the class that is being offered at the Aquatic Center that I would love everybody to join me with, and if you are so interested in, is starting next week. It is a 12-week class, and the fee for members is $480. For non-members is $600. And if you back off that money for 12 weeks, 2 times a week, it does come out to be about $20 a class, which is the going rate for a regular fitness class. But this, hopefully you have learned, is going to be so much more, because it is going to be directed specifically to you, learning how your body works, and getting to know definitely a new body part at some point. So that is it. I'm going to stop sharing my slides. And to get into the class, all you have to do is call the Aquatic Center or go to the welcome desk and sign up. But I'd like to open it out to any